Guys, so here we are talking about materials. More specifically, we're in chapter 2 talking about job order costing. And we said that in order to create, we're talking about job order costing, right? And so we have this particular job, and we're saying when you are assigned a job or you're creating an order for a customer, in order to do so, we need 3 things to create a product, right? Because it's accumulating cost as we create this job. And so the first thing we're talking about right now is that if we're creating a job, we need direct materials, and that's where we are at this moment. Now, so materials there, we've already mentioned that there's a separate account for each material. So in the last video that I showed, or even in the last slide, we looked specifically at wood material, right? The maple wood. But we've also seen that there could be hickory wood, there could be maple, yeah, so we look at maple, there could be oak, there could be hickory, and on and on and on, right? All right, so in our next question, it says, when a company purchases materials, what accounts are being affected, right? So think about that. Go back to accounting 1A. Whenever we were purchasing inventory or materials, what account was affected, right? So maybe you need a trip down memory lane or a refresher, but usually we were doing materials as our debit, right? Of said amount, whatever the amount was, and then the credit was cash, or for X amount of dollars, whatever the amount was. Or it was either materials as our debit, and then our credit was maybe accounts payable. I promised to pay, say, whoever we're buying this material from, I promise to pay you in terms or what have you, right? So yeah, it's saying what accounts are affected, where our materials account is being affected, and then however we choose to pay. Now, what I will tell you is that most companies will mainly default to paying with accounts payable, just because companies like to hold on to their cash, okay? All right, moving on. So here is what my journal entry would look like. So if you were looking, so I'm gonna go back for a second. So this was from the last video, and we're specifically targeting this part of the process. So we went out to our supplier because we are being depleted of our inventory because we're applying it to different jobs. And so we went out to our supplier and said, okay, we need about what, how much did we purchase? 750, here it is. We need 750 pallets of maple wood, right? And so in order to complete that transaction, the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna do a debit to materials of the 10,500 and a credit to accounts payable, okay? That is how we are increasing our inventory. Now, the next question says, how is our work in process, how do we affect our work in process account? All right, so whenever we create a job, right? So this is maybe, let's talk specifically on job number 71. We'll take that for instance, right? If it allows me to circle it. There we go. So job number 71, remember that when we're creating a job, we need direct materials, we need direct labor, and we need factory overhead. We're focusing specifically on materials right now, right? So once we create this job, right, I'm gonna flip screens, we have created this job number 71, right? And so now we need to some kind of way take these materials that are in the storehouse, or the storeroom, I should say, storeroom or the warehouse. We need to take said materials and now take it from here and apply it to this job. Now you have to do it on paper, right? That's what we're trying to get across. So yes, you can physically go with a forklift and move it from the warehouse to that particular part in the facility, but you have to move it on paper as well, the paper trail, don't forget that. So in order for us to do that, we need to decrease our materials account. So the way we decrease an asset account is through a credit. So our materials is going to decrease, right? But what is our debit? Our debit is going to be now work in process. This job is a work in process. Sorry, it's not writing. It is a work in process. Let's not forget, under work in process account, you have all of the jobs that are currently being worked on, right? So maybe you're gonna have job number 69, 70, 73, 75, right? On and on and on and on, right? So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so anyways, in order for us to move this inventory or to take this inventory from the warehouse or the storeroom into a job on paper is to do a debit to work in process and a credit to inventory or materials, okay? All right, so we're gonna move on to an example. All right, so let's work through this example together. It says on May 7, Bergen Company purchased on account 10,000 units of raw materials at $8 per unit. During May, the raw materials was requisition, all that means, a fancy word for saying they requested this from the warehouse or the materials room, right? A requisition is a request for materials. So it says during May, raw materials was requisitioned for production as follows: 750 units for job number 200 at $8 per unit, and 1,480 units for job 305 at $5 per unit. Okay, so what it's asking us to do is to journalize the entry on May 7th to record the purchase, and on May 31st to record the requisition from the materials room. All right, so that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to switch to the screen, a different screen. All right, so first off, we need to record the first part, which is May 7th, right? So hopefully you have maybe a side-by-side, or you can pause it and try to work along with me. But on May 7th, it says they purchased on account. So hopefully you remember on account means accounts payable. So they purchased on account 10,000 units of raw materials at $8, all right? So I'm gonna do a debit to materials because that's what I'm receiving, a debit to materials in the amount of $80,000. Now, how did I get $80,000? Well, my calculation is down here. The way I do that is they say 10,000 units at $8 per unit, right? So if I did that calculation, that should give me 80,000. All right, and then they said on account. On account means, hey guys, I promise to pay you later. All right, so then anyways, that would be my 80,000 there, okay? All right, so with that, I am now going to, because I don't write very nice, I'm gonna erase this little part, and now I'm gonna record my transaction for May 31st, okay, the next part. All right, so it told me that we did a requisition in the month of May for a couple of different jobs. So it says they did 700, I'm gonna do the calculation first. So it says you did 7,500 units for job number 200, and that was at $8 per unit. And then we had another job, number 305, and that was for 1,480 units at $5 per unit, okay? So that's part of all of my requisitions. So if I did this calculation, if I did 7,500 times my 8, I come up with 60,000, right? Yes. And then I have the 1,480 times 5, and that would equal 7,400. So I would say the total amount of my the requisition is, I would add those two up, 60,000 plus 7,400, right? I didn't get the right answer. 60,000 plus 7,400, and that comes out to 67,400. Okay. All right. So what does my journal entry look like? So again, I'm running out of space, but hopefully you can pause this and then you'll see it. But anyways, the way this is going to look is I'm going to do a work in process, and that amount is going to be for the 67,400. And then what is going down? What account is decreasing? Hopefully you said your materials, right? Your materials is your credit in the amount of 67,400. Okay. All right. So the question that I get so often is, could you have done 2 different journal entries, one for job number 200 and then another one for job number 305? Absolutely, you could have done 2 different journal entries and split it up like this: 60,000 as a debit and a credit, and then 7,400 as a debit and credit. But the reason I discourage you from doing that is because no matter how you put it or slice it, all of this is part. This 67,400 is all part of your work in process. Now, when you go into detail, or when you look into this work in process account, I'm gonna erase for a second, so stick with me for a second. All right, so what I want to tell you is that when you look into your work in process account, right, and you do if this is a plus button and you click this plus button, what you're going to see under there is all of the jobs that you're working on. So maybe you're going to see job number 200, right? And then you're going to see job number maybe 305. And then this specifically, they're going to have all of the 60,000 materials that you used in the 74. That's 60,000, by the way. Anyways, and then 7,400 of direct materials for that particular job. So it makes no sense, I guess I would say, or it doesn't really make sense for you to say, oh, here's job number 200. Like, you can put that as part of your description for a journal entry, like, or what have you, but it needs to follow the regular journal entry. Job number 200 is not an account number or account name, right? All of that falls into the work in process. So hopefully, if that didn't even cross your mind, don't worry about what I just said. But if you're like, hey, can I do 2 separate journal entries? I would discourage you from doing that because it's already being captured in work in process. And once you click on this little button, it's going to expand, and then you're going to see all of the different jobs in your work in process inventory account and all of the direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead that's currently being applied to it. Okay. All right. So with that, I am gonna go ahead and stop this video, and now we're gonna move on to direct